We're back. You know, as I continue to make content on YouTube, I continue to see the inevitable. I continue to see the things that will always be. Birds will fly, fish will swim. And even if I'm working on a video that's completely unrelated, Gigabash will always find its way back into my life. Like, I wanna spend the rest of my life. I'm also trying my very best not to get distracted by recent events, but we gotta lock in. We gotta lock in. Good morning, after evening, my beautiful people. My name is All Night, and we back with the Giga and the Bash. Yep, you heard it here. We are back talking about Giga Bash. Just recently, we had the mighty DLC added to the game, where Giga Bash finally added its own suite of original characters to the roster. Obviously very inspired by Super Sentai. Well, now we are switching things up. And by switching things up, I mean we're going back to crossovers. And by switching things up, we're not only going back to crossovers, but we're also revisiting another franchise. Passion Republic announced at New York Comic-Con that we will be getting an Ultraman Rising DLC coming to Giga Bash this November. We're gonna take a hot minute and just watch the trailer front to back. And that's about it. Of course, the key point here is that it's coming out November 28th, so we have an entire month that's going to transpire before we get to, get our hands on this DLC, of course. And so far, the trailer doesn't show a crazy amount of stuff. We know for a fact that our main character from the film, Ken Sato, will be our, at least one of the characters that we are getting. Got this cute little shot of Emi and Ken flying onto the scene and taking on the Gigabash roster over here in the background. We've got Reiwa, we have Balthazar, and we have Concrete. Now, the map in which they are placed in kind of looks like I'm pretty sure there's a Tokyo map at night, and this looks similar, but I don't recognize this building, although here's the other thing that I noticed, specifically not just about the trailer, but about the description of the trailer. If you're in their YouTube video description, you'll see big hero, bigger responsibilities, and an even bigger arena. As seen at New York Comic-Con, we proudly announced that Ultraman Rising is swooping into Gigabash to save the day. Stay tuned for more info. It's this line right here, even bigger arena, that has me thinking this has to be a new map. Like, we have to be getting a new map based on, probably, like, I'm thinking of the chase sequence in Ultraman Rising where Emi went on a mini rampage at night. This has to be the addition, finally, of a new map to the game. I have been kind of dying for a long time for Passion Republic to add more maps to the game, because the game already has plenty of maps, but I can only see that same suite over and over and over again, and not every arena in the game is, it's built the same. I just pulled this tier list off of Reddit, but you've got a lot of really good places. Like, I really like Kimura District. I like the GGN Tower. That's a pretty good one. Stuff like Mount Gorogong is and the Giga Core, essentially all of the purple stages, shocker, purple, I don't really like them, but with the stuff that we have access to in the game right now, even with some of the stuff that they added, like the Yeti Sanctuary, I don't even think was in base game. I do like it when we get stages added to the game in any capacity, and if we're gonna get a new Ultraman stage based off the movie, I'm happy. Like, that's dope. That's really cool. I thought this tower was a really cool set piece. It was a really cool, iconic location from the movie, so absolutely think that's really cool if we're getting a new stage with the DLC. Whether it's free, part of the DLC, what have you, that remains to be seen. But that's the thing. That's really all we know right now. We know it's coming in November. We know that at a bare minimum, Ultraman himself from the film is one of the characters of the DLC. And we're about 50% on the new stage potential here. Now, sure, there's a lot that we don't know, but I think there's a lot that we can infer from this trailer alone. Particularly, I think this trailer confirms two things and opens the door for two major areas of the Gigabash universe to take advantage of, especially when it comes to building its roster with new and different characters. Door number one is that this opens the floodgates of what specific mediums we draw characters from. Let me explain. So far, the Gigabash roster is almost exclusively built of either original characters, or if they are crossover characters, they are mostly characters that appear in traditional tokusatsu live-action projects. We have Godzilla and we have Ultraman. Those are the main crossovers that we've built from so far. With Ultraman Rising, we have a unique opportunity here to open the floodgates to animation. Neon Genesis Evangelion, Gundam, particularly with the door open at Netflix, GAMERA! GAMERA bros, I have nothing but respect for your grind, your patience. I respect you as a Godzilla fan. We ate fantastically this past year, and GAMERA fans, I pray for your comeback as well. But seriously, with Ultraman Rising opening the door to Netflix, to animation, to all of these different avenues that we have not explored yet with Gigabash crossovers, I think that's really dope. Subsequently, and this is tinfoil hat moment for me, so bear with me. Ultraman Rising getting the invitation here, I believe, also opens the door to westernized versions of characters being included in the game. Ultraman Rising, of course, is based on a Japanese property, but I do believe that it was mostly ILM, which is an animation studio in the West. In my mind, that opens the door to the potential for other American-made kaiju projects that probably, up to this point, weren't necessarily guaranteed representation, because we mostly had the traditional versions of Ultraman and the traditional versions of Godzilla on display here. So the question really was, do Western-made productions have a shot here? Stuff like Pacific Rim, stuff like the Monsterverse, or even like kind of a weird, hopeful prediction from myself, but Zilla, right? The 1998 Godzilla movie. I know that Toho likes to just pretend that that version doesn't exist from time to time. But if Zilla has no defenders, that means that I have died, because I am. Zilla holds a special place in my heart, and I would love to see that boy come to Gigabash. So the doors are open for future DLC, but we gotta talk about what's potential to come with this specific DLC pack that we have. We have the obvious. We have Ken as the confirmed, title character of the pack. But I think one other thing to point out here is how many characters are we going to be getting? And what characters are those outside of just Ultraman? For starters, I 100% believe this is going to remain a 2-pack. Passion Republic has remained consistent with that stance of producing 2-packs to make sure that we get that DLC pumped out that much faster than a traditional 4-pack was back in the day. So I 1000% believe that if this is not a 2-pack, this could even just be a 1-pack with just Ken and Emi as a combo character. That leads me to my next theory about this DLC, in that some folks I'm hearing that there's potential for Emi to just be a separate character, and while I think that would be cute and really neat, the version of Emi on display in the trailer is the younger and much smaller iteration of Emi that we saw in the early parts of the film. So I actually think for them to be displaying Emi front and center, I mean, Ultraman Rising is a movie about Ken and Emi, Ultraman and his adoptive monster daughter. I don't think it would make sense for us not to include both of them, which is why I think that this might actually be a pseudo-duo character when you think about it. Consider Duck Hunt from Smash and then just, Ultraman. Where in reality you are controlling one instance of a character, but some of their moves maybe have some crossover. Maybe we have a standard Ultraman beam, and then we have, I don't know, maybe some Emi scratches or like a little beam from her, something like that. One thing that I do really applaud Passion Republic for is that they do a really good job of allowing a character to stand out and be insanely unique despite them being similar to another character. For example, I feel like the Ultras in the Ultraman pack definitely played differently from the roster's own, giant superhero Gigaman. Although the problem with that is that the lot of them in that pack, the Ultras kind of just played similarly to one another. So I hope that doesn't happen here, and I am hopeful that Ken Sato can be on his own and represent his own flavor of Ultra in this DLC. And that leaves the final question remaining in who else could we see in this DLC? If it's not a 1-pack, which would be odd because the pattern has always been 2 packs or 4 packs, who could be the alternate option here in this DLC pack? I have some thoughts, I have some opinions. The easiest first option would be Gigantron. Gigantron would be a major Ultraman villain to include on the roster. Folks have been wanting Ultraman Kaijus represented on this roster, and if nothing else, I think Gigantron is a great start. We had, of course, Baltan, but no one likes Baltan. And if we were to get more Ultra Kaiju representation, I think Gigantron makes a ton of sense. I even wager to say that Gigantron / Mecha Gigantron could be represented here. Whether that is a skin that turns them into one or the other, or if we just lock in on one, whether it's just Gigantron or Mecha Gigantron from the end of the film, either way, I'd be happy. That'd be dope. Outside of Kiryu, we don't have a ton of mechanized kaiju on the roster. So a Mecha Gigantron, you know, in the same vein of Mecha Godzilla, Mecha King Ghidorah, I think a cybernetic kaiju makes a lot of sense to include here. That is the most likely option. However, I have my personal wish list for who I would like to be represented from the film, and that is the Destroyer Mecha from the movie. This certified threat coming onto the scene, a Transformer in a weird way. Transformers 1 on digital today. TF Hype Guy, if there is any crossover in our fandoms, I'm sending my soldiers over to you. But in all honesty, I am of the mindset that I would love to see more industrial, kind of stocky mecha up in this roster. We've kind of covered our bases pretty well with the major types of mecha designs we typically see either in tokusatsu or mecha anime. We have your Gundam-like-ish superhero robot in Thundertros. Is it Thundertros? Thundertros? Comment down below, pretty please. We also now have our Sentai mecha with Rojak. We also have a mecha kaiju with Kiryu. So in my mind, I'm thinking that if we could find a way to get the Destroyer mecha in Gigabash as a transforming, more industrial kind of beefy tank, I would absolutely adore the Destroyer as our villain mecha counterpart to Ken be added to the roster. It would be unique, it would be different, it would add more villains to this roster. I genuinely don't think we have enough villains just yet. The baseline Gigabash roster is full of a bunch of good guys, not many bad guys. And the DLCs we've been getting have kind of been evening out in terms of villain kaiju and hero kaiju. So it stands to reason that we have a protagonist and an antagonist in an expected 2-pack. It's just a theory, but Lord help me, I hope it's true. But that's all I've got to say here today about the Ultraman Rising DLC coming to Gigabash. As Gigabash continues to grow, I do hope to continue to cover it on this channel, and I do really think that even after the Mighty DLC and this content pack coming out, I want to revisit the game as a whole in a proper all-night video. So, you know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, subscribe, subscribe, to make sure that you are notified next time I talk about Gigabash. In the meantime, stay locked in, because outside of Gigabash, I got some other stuff in the kitchen. It's cooking, but Gigabash called, and I couldn't leave it to voicemail. So be sure to stay tuned for a bunch of new crazy videos coming out very soon. I can't wait for you to see it. But that's all I've got to say for today's video. Thank you so much again for clicking on this video and giving me some of your time today. Don't forget to like the video and show the algorithm some of that love. Subscribe for more content. And as always, I've been your host all night. And do not forget to stay loved, keep loving, and have a wonderful night.